Before the judge even finished reading the file, one man stood in the courtroom, believing the system had already decided his fate, not because of today's charges, but because no one was listening. What began as a routine competency hearing quickly turned into a disturbing account of missing evidence, denied medical care, and a defendant desperately trying to prove he was more than just a case number. This is not just a courtroom proceeding. This is a fight to be heard inside a system that controls every second of a man's life. And before we continue, if you believe justice should be fair, transparent, and humane, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because here we expose the moments when the law is tested and when the truth refuses to stay silent. Asterisk, as the courtroom clerk formally calls out, the case of the people versus Jeffrey Bloom. The atmosphere immediately turns heavy and tense, setting the tone for a hearing that would become far more than a routine procedural matter. The judge takes the bench, the attorneys greet the court, and defense counsel explains that today's hearing concerns the defendant's competency to stand trial, noting that a medical report has been completed. However, the judge quickly clarifies that the court itself has not yet received or reviewed this report, and therefore cannot make any findings until it is officially provided, highlighting how even small administrative delays can have enormous consequences for a defendant's future. Defense counsel offers to forward the report and explains that it concludes Mr. Bloom is competent, to which she is prepared to stipulate, but the judge insists on personally reviewing the document before issuing a ruling. The discussion then shifts to the status of the case, and defense counsel requests a 2-week adjournment, citing serious discovery issues that raise concerns about fairness and due process. She explains that the police report references written statements from 5 or 6 correctional officers that were never actually attached, along with a written statement from the primary complainant that is claimed to be included but is missing from the file. In addition, critical body camera footage from Sergeant Craig, which is specifically listed as discoverable evidence, has still not been provided, and without these materials, the defense argues it cannot adequately prepare. The court acknowledges these concerns, and defense counsel commits to formally following up with the prosecution to ensure the missing discovery is produced. At that point, the hearing takes an unexpected and deeply emotional turn when the defendant asks to address the court directly, a request judges often approach with caution due to the risk of disrupting courtroom order. Once allowed to speak, Mr. Bloom immediately expresses frustration, stating that the court previously ordered the public defender's office to provide certain reports, yet months have passed with no compliance. He then moves beyond the narrow legal issues and places something personal and alarming on the record, explaining that he has been suffering from severe dental pain, has received little to no sleep, and claims he is being denied medical care by jail medical staff. He describes filing multiple written requests with no response, alleges that medical and correctional staff have denied him even basic pain medication such as Tylenol or Motrin, and claims that he has been given incorrect medications on multiple occasions, including errors involving his Parkinson's treatment. He further alleges that evidence has been destroyed that he was written up for misconduct simply for requesting documentation, and that certain jail officials have manipulated phone records and spread false information suggesting his family does not wish to have contact with him. Throughout his statement, Mr. Bloom paints a picture of a man who believes he is being systematically ignored, silenced, and mistreated while trapped within an institution that controls every aspect of his daily life. He insists that he has evidence to support his claims and that some correctional officers are willing to testify on his behalf, then ends by pleading for any civil attorney or outside authority who may hear his words to intervene, warning that jail staff and medical contractors should not be blindly trusted. The judge, maintaining courtroom order, thanks the defendant for his statement and brings the hearing back to its legal focus, noting that the competency report has now been received. Both parties formally stipulate to the report, and the court issues its finding that the defendant is competent to stand trial, specifically stating that he understands the nature of the proceedings and is capable of rationally assisting in his defense. The case is then adjourned with a new date set, and the judge instructs counsel to submit the necessary orders. However, the proceedings continue into a broader pretrial discussion after the case is reassigned to new defense counsel, who informs the court that she has begun building a working relationship with her client. She places 2 requests on the record at her client's direction. First, that a prior contempt finding be set aside, and second, that the defendant be allowed to speak again under strict courtroom guidelines. The prosecutor responds by placing a plea offer on the record, explaining that the people are offering reduced charges with no habitual offender enhancement and no prison recommendation, while also making clear that if the case proceeds to trial, the defendant faces significantly harsher sentencing exposure as a 4th habitual offender. The judge then sets a 2-day jury trial date, ensuring the case moves forward one way or another. When the defendant is again permitted to speak, his tone is exhausted and emotional rather than confrontational. He explains that he feels consistently cut off, unheard, and overwhelmed, stating that he believes his constitutional and civil rights are being ignored. He questions why decades-old convictions are being used against him as habitual offenses, arguing that his criminal history does not show a pattern, and that he has spent many years contributing positively to the community through work and volunteer efforts. He describes losing everything in the past several months, recounts being assaulted while in custody, and once again urges the court to review body camera footage that he believes will reveal the truth of what happened. As he struggles to conclude, he summarizes his pain in simple human terms, saying it hurts to be treated this way, and that he would never treat another person as he believes he has been treated. The judge thanks him. Defense counsel reassures the court that she will continue investigating her client's concerns, and the judge concludes the pretrial by stating that he stands by his prior rulings, formally ending the session. The hearing, taken as a whole, reveals not just a legal dispute, but a broader human conflict, where procedure, power, and personal suffering collide, showing how a courtroom can become a place where a person is not only judged under the law, but also struggles to be seen, heard, and treated as a human being.